On this week's episode of the Geek State, first South by Southwest was just in Austin, Texas, but soon it'll be in your own living room.
Tons of news coming out of Sony, but what does it all mean?
We may be stuck inside, but mentally, we're all on our own islands inside Animal Crossing. All that and more on this episode of the Geek State.
And now for an emergency announcement from the mayor.
People of Springfield, because of the epidemic, I have canceled my vacation to the Bahamas. I shall not leave the city. Hey, you! Get that steel drum out of the mayor's office.
Sorry, Mon.
Stand by alert.
This is it.
This podcast is a sonic form of the blue screen of death. This is the Geek State.
Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Geek State. This is the podcast about all the cool stuff going on in the world of geek. And right now, the world just exists in your own little habitat, wherever you happen to be. We're here to keep you company just for a little bit. My name is Chris, and joining me, as always, my good buddy, James. James, we're both alive. We're feeling good.
We are.
It's stuff to be grateful for. I know that sometimes it can be... at least I know I can get kind of in that grumpy, gloomy place where I'm like, here I am in my house again. Here I am on another video conference call for work. And then, don't take the time to appreciate the fact that, I have a job that requires a video conference every once in a while and all that stuff. So we got some cool stuff. We've got we're talking some video games and some movies. We got some stuff from the PlayStation, but kind of wanted to touch base because throughout this whole thing, like, we released an episode of the podcast on the day that kind of New York started closing stuff down. In fact, I was an hour away from New York City on a bus about to arrive into the city right when we got the word that the Broadway shows we had booked were canceled, and it was like, okay, should we even stay in the city? At this point, because we were on a bus. I was in New Jersey for a week on a bus heading to New York City, and while on the bus, I'm like on American Airlines looking up flights to see if can I get out of the city tonight. Thankfully, if as long as my bus arrived at the station on time and that I could get on quickly to a subway, I would make it to the airport with about an hour to spare before the flight took off. So I was able to switch, and American Airlines didn't charge any kind of change fee, which is great. So I got to spend, I guess, what equates to about an hour in New York City, basically arriving at the Port Authority, getting on the subway, and going from the subway directly to JFK. It was quite the whirlwind. So we've been inside. We've got our games, and James, you surely have a ton of games in your collection. But I'm kind of curious, what are the things that you're doing right now to help keep yourself entertained, keep yourself sane, help the time pass?
Yeah, a lot of what other people are doing. I fell down the Tiger King wormhole. I don't think we've spoken since then. With the lovely Carol Baskins. Everyone seems to really be on her side these days.
Yeah. It's all
so
Team Carol Baskins.
I actually started watching that the day that it came out, and I was a half an episode in, and I told Maya, I was like, you're going to want to watch this because this is all people are going to talk about. I mean, it's all they're going to talk about. And sure enough, it blew up. And boy, that was entertaining. So that kept me busy for about half a day.
Yes, I did the same thing where as soon as I started watching it, now I didn't jump on it as quickly as you did because it was a few days, after the show had come out and people started, the buzz had started to build. And I just put it on during, what kind of in the background while I was working. And before I knew it, the whole thing, I'd finished the whole thing. And Netflix has said there's going to be one additional episode coming out next week.
Yes, they did. And then also one thing, I kind of hit a low point in my quarantine time in which I was playing through. I said I didn't have anything to talk about on this front, but I lied. I was playing through a game called Xenogears on the PlayStation 1. It's an RPG made by Squaresoft. and it is essentially you get in mechs. It's like a mech-based Japanese RPG. It's really cool. Got about 22 hours into that, and then my disc stopped reading. It won't load a certain zone, but there's no one who is open who has a disc resurfacer. So I'm sitting here 20 hours into a game that I cannot continue to play, but that's okay because the next day, something we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show came out. So it kind of healed that wound for me.
You know, the funny thing is, like, we're so quick to getting easy to, you know, for things like not being able to go to a store that can resurface your disc, you know, can still piss us off, you know, throughout this, you know, this time. I've almost done a complete rewatch of The Office, which I'm not proud of. I've been putting it on while, you know, typing up stuff for work or working on a design project. And it's almost like they've become my surrogate, like, coworkers, because I work in an office setting, you know, typically throughout the year. Been doing a lot of that. But most of my time, James, is playing the same thing that the two of us have been playing since the day it came out. This is the very first time for the Nintendo Switch that I bought the digital version of it, because I don't think I could have probably picked it up, the physical copy, which is great because I wanted this game to be always on with me. This was a game that I definitely didn't want to have to, like, pop in and out if I was playing something else, because I do like the physical media. And I think we've had that discussion before about, you know, physical or digital and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I tend to lean, especially with games, more physical, because then I can sell them if, you know, I can get something back from them. Right. But we're talking, of course, about Animal Crossing. Our last episode, it was before the game came out. We were talking about some of the features. Now, I have played two other versions of Animal Crossing. There's been a few different versions of the game. There was the original one that came out for the GameCube. That's the one that I started playing back in college. It came with its own memory card, because it needed a certain amount of size. And so they shipped the game with a memory card, for the GameCube for that purpose. It was the orange one. And then some time passed, and then I played New Leaf on the 3DS, and now it's time for New Horizons. But James, this is the very first time that you've ever played an Animal Crossing game.
My first debt to Mr. Nook, which blew my mind when I realized that his name was Mr. Nook because he's a tanuki.
Yes, he's not a raccoon.
Yeah, not a raccoon. But anyways, sorry.
I'm curious because, you know, he's
not an anatomically correct tanuki, by the way. I mean, just throwing it out there. That's an if you know, you know.
Let's skip that and talk about the first time you play an Animal Crossing game. I think everybody goes through kind of something in their brain where you're like, oh, what is this exactly? And I'm kind of curious, from your point of view as someone who's never played Animal Crossing, like, first impressions, you know, from starting up the game and getting into kind of the mechanics and the daily life on the island, you know?
Yeah. So I think the key is in what you just said is the daily life. This is not a game that you just play, like, to play through. Obviously, I didn't really know that, but you can only do so much in a day, right? So that you know, the first day that I was playing it, I played it for probably 3 or 4 hours, I would guess, and I literally ran out of things to do for the most part, which is fine. But I just didn't know that that's kind of what the idea of the game was. This is definitely a game where you can log in for, you know, 15 minutes a day or whatever it is. In fact, it encourages you to, because you get like a daily bonus for consecutive days you log in. Yeah. But I like it. I don't know how long I'll be sticking with it, because at some points it does feel like it's a bit of a chore. I feel like in fact, I probably haven't played in a couple days, so I can't imagine how many weeds I have on my property.
It's probably not too bad. It's more like if you haven't played in a couple of weeks, that's when it's bad. Yeah, it's when your character's hair gets all messed up and you start looking and people are like, whoa, James, I haven't seen you around in forever. Like, we thought you died. You know, like,
yeah, right.
Some serious guilt trip going on. You find out like your favorite villager, you know, moved away. from your island. And it's like, there's definitely a chore aspect. And I've actually used that to describe it. When talking to friends, like, what have you been up to? I was like, oh, I just finished my chores on my island.
Yeah, but like it's kind of one of those things where once you get a stockpile of wood, you don't have to hit trees anymore for a while. Except right now they're doing the whole Easter thing, so you have to get the wood eggs. But anyways,
well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about, because this is something that I'm so pissed, and I'll be so excited when this holiday is over with. Because one of the things that I like to do the most in Animal Crossing is I like to go fishing. And right now we're in this bunny day, because it's not Easter. None of their holidays have the actual names. Like St. Patrick's Day was like Shamrock Day or something like that, back on New Leaf. Because this came out after Shamrock Day, but right now, so the fishing and the fossil hunting are the things that I enjoy, and when you're chopping down trees, okay, here's some iron and here's some stuff, and here's an egg, great. There's the eggs that are in the trees, you can shake them. I know that I'm going after those eggs. But then when I'm trying to go after a fish, which clearly looks like a fish in the ocean, and it's moving around, and then it bites finally, and then I reel in this fish, and it's like, oh, just kidding, it's an egg. Every single time I'm so angry because I feel tricked.
Yes, yeah, it is really annoying when that happens, and it's so funny because when I was first playing, you might get a can that you can use or a tire, and I would get annoyed at that. I'm like, that was a big fish, that should have been an oarfish. Like, why did I only get that? At worst, sea bass, right? So it's like, whatever. I'm tired of seeing that on my screen too, but. I wish you could turn quips off. Like, save me the extra second of dialogue, like, every time. But anyways, that's another small. You know what? I will say that this version of the game is way better when it comes to those the speed and the amount of those windows. I have heard that. I will say that one of my favorite little small things is the curator of the museum is an owl. I don't remember his name. Bevlins or something like that.
Well, why can't I think of his name?
Something like that.
No.
But anyways, it starts with a B, doesn't it?
It does.
I don't know. Anyways, I like that he's sleeping during the day. That's like my favorite little thing that they do.
And he's like, when you wake him up.
But it's a fun game. My only problem is it's
Blathers.
I like Blathers. That's right. I like games like Harvest Moon because I can continue to progress them at my own pace. And it doesn't feel like a chore. I can sit down for 7 hours and play 4 or 5 days, or not 7 hours, but however long I want, and play as many days as I want. And this, it is a chore, and you have to do it that day. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen, right? But I do like I like the design aspect of it. I think it's cool. It's not really my cup of tea. Of the whole idea of, building this island that people would want to come to. I have a giant Godzilla on mine, which is pretty sweet.
Same. As soon as you got that, I was like, I have to get it.
Right.
Best 5,000 Nook Miles.
Nook Miles, which I have like 48,000 of them. So I don't. It's like it'll be like you need to spend 500 Nook Miles, so I'll just buy a ticket and then just put it in my house or whatever, so that I can like use it on it for a rainy day, I guess. But I mean, I really enjoy it. I like the aspect of, I feel like there's a lot of stuff I'm missing because I don't know. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I feel like I haven't been chopping down trees. Is that a thing that I should be doing? Or like, because like sometimes I'll see bugs on a stump of a tree. Do those bugs only come on stumps of trees? Do I need to chop down more trees to make that happen? Like, it's kind of one of those things. And then it's like, I messed up big time the first day because I destroyed all my rocks. So then I was rockless for a while. Not, I only got 1 rock a day, right? So for a few days. So it's like, I don't want to continue to make these errors. But I did learn I have learned a couple tricks, like the rock trick where you dig diagonally away from the rock. Do you do that?
Yeah, so that you don't bounce back.
So you don't bounce back.
Yeah, when you're playing the game and you have to hit these rocks, and they will give you different materials from them. Sometimes it's money, and that one specifically, you really want to make sure you get it right. So the trick is you put those holes right behind you so that your character doesn't recoil away from it. So that's a good one. But
I feel like there's a lot of that I don't know, and you know that. So worries me, I guess. I've got a trick, and maybe you already know this one, but one of the quickest ways to make some money, which James, I know that you know about lucking out going to an island that's full of tarantulas, because those suckers will get you 8,000 bells a piece, and there is one island that's it's a random it's one of the rare islands that you can go to, and that one is just covered in tarantulas, basically. Yes. Now, you can also trick the game into giving you that tarantula island in a way, because the way that the game works is when you go to an island, it spawns the fish and the bugs and all the stuff. And when you go to these islands, they've got trees, they've got flowers, and they've got all the stuff. Well, if you chop down all the trees and dig up the roots and pull all of the flowers up, the only thing that's left for the game to generate, to spawn, are the ground and the rock bugs, and that's the wharf roaches, which show up on the shore, the tiger beetle, and the tarantula. Right now, in the summer season, I think you get scorpions. So if you don't have any flowers and you don't have any trees, the game is like, well, I gotta generate some insects here. So if you run around and you scare off the wharf roaches, then it's gonna spawn something else, and that's how you can get some tarantulas going. Interesting. Yeah. See, these Animal Crossing kids just have too much time on their hands to be doing this. Yeah, but that is really smart. I've enjoying finding people's cool creations on Twitter. Yep. I got a Darth Maul poster in my house. Yeah, I did see there's like a website that has like all the essentially scans, and you can like put what you want in it, and it creates it on like a thing that you then import, which is pretty cool. Because I've seen some islands online that have like custom flooring. So like they've got like paths that they've built, and like around their Godzilla, there's like a lava pit and stuff like that, which is really cool. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff. People are really, really creative. I did luck out this week. So one of the things that you may not know on Sunday morning with the turnips. Yes, I do. Okay. I didn't know about it until this week. I figured it out. Like you can buy turnips and then hopefully sell them for a profit during the week. Yeah, and there is. I'm going to find the website, and we're going to move on to news. But I thought this was really important because I didn't know about it until later. Let's see, turnip. It better be called turnipprofit.com. If it's not called turnipprofit.com. Oh my gosh. That's perfect. I don't think that is it. Okay, so I got to buy that URL real quick. Pause the show. Oh, it is. It's called turnipprofit.io. Turnip. I want to be clear. I did not know that this existed, just for the record. Turnip profit, like you're prophesizing, PROPHET. Oh, yeah. What? Because let me tell you what this is. Okay, so it's a way for you to know when to sell your turnips, because what happens is you buy the turnips for a certain price. They're usually around $100 each, 100 bells each. And then you check in at Nook's Cranny, and they're like, today we're buying turnips for 79. You're like, well, dang, that's less than I paid for it. And it changes. So in the morning it's one price, and then as soon as it's noon, they have a new price. Right. And that's the AM and PM pricing. So apparently they figured out what the pattern is. So you go in here and you say, is it your first time buying turnips? You say yes or no. And then if you can remember what the pattern was last time, you can put it in like fluctuating, small spike, large spike, decreasing, or I don't know. Then you put in how much you paid for turnips. And then I think
on you can the first time Monday rolls around and you get a price, you type that in, and then it generates you out when is the best day to sell. It'll tell you like how much the pricing will be. So if you're like holding on hope for, double your, investment, this is a good way of doing it.
Which
as
you
opposed
have
to just,
which you have to sell them before the next Sunday, right? Because they go bad.
They go bad. They rot.
Right.
So you have 6 days to do it. So that's Animal Crossing, and we're having fun. If you want to play, or come visit our islands or something like that, if you got some cool stuff, I got all the fruit now. So if you're looking for peaches and pears and cherries and all that kind of stuff,
I'll be expecting some cherries in the mail then.
Okay, I will send some. I think I actually picked most of them and sold them because
they turn a profit.
They do.
So do you dig up other trees to plant those trees?
So you can pick the fruit and then bury the fruit, or when you go to the islands, if you eat some fruit and get powered up, you can just with a shovel dig up that whole tree, put it in your pocket somehow,
right?
And then when you go home, you can plant that tree, and boom, you got cherries already.
Right, but I guess my question is, but then do you just get rid of the trees that are already on your property and plant those instead because they'll get you money? Or you just plant them in empty spaces? I just plant them in empty spaces. Also, do you know about the money, the little glowing spot on the ground with the money? Yes, and then you replant it, but that's it only turns 1,000 into 3,000, so it's almost not even worth doing. Fair enough. Let's get into the news. Big news, Chris. I knew if we took a break, we'd get some news. We had the weird PlayStation announcement where they had a fake audience. It was very strange. It was supposed to be a CDC presentation. People thought it was going to be like this huge thing. Everyone who knew what they were looking at knew that it was just going to be like a specs thing. So it pissed a lot of people on the internet off. But information on the PlayStation 5 slowly being leaked out. And earlier this week, we have been given the PlayStation 5 controller. We've now seen it. Chris, have you seen it? I have. You have. It's Go ahead pretty. And give me those first impressions. Oh, you think it's pretty? Okay. I think it's pretty. I think it looks nice. I think it does look nice. I think it does not look like a PlayStation controller. It looks to me that my first thought was it looked like a Play School game ooh, interesting controller. I don't know. It reminded me of the PlayStation VR. Yes, it definitely has the PlayStation VR vibes. I'm conspiracing right now. That's not a word, but I truly believe that the only reason that this controller is white is because if it were black, it would look too much like a Xbox controller. Oh my gosh! I need to look at a picture of it again because So essentially, just getting into it real quick, the biggest new feature, it's called the DualSense 5. And the biggest new feature of it is that it has, what do you call it? Adaptive triggers and haptic feedback. So adaptive triggers essentially means if you're playing Tomb Raider, right, and you're pulling back the bow, the further you pull the bow back, the harder the trigger resists, right? So it gives you kind of it's resistance, right? Yeah. And in order to do that, they have to fit the actuators in. So if you look at the profile of the controller, it's thicker towards the top than your traditional PlayStation controllers. And I think that it looks more like an Xbox controller than it does a PlayStation 4 controller. Oh, I see that. That's just me personally. Yeah, no, if you try to really just kind of like envision it, all in black. Right. It absolutely does. Yeah. So that's my theory as to why they did the white on it. I don't know why they're still doing the light bar stuff. That destroyed the battery life of the DualShock 4. But we'll see how the battery life is here. They said in their release that they definitely have improved battery life over the DualShock 4. And then also it says that the share button on the DualShock 4 has been replaced by a create button. So what that means, who knows? Maybe you create a video that you can then share. I don't know.
It's like the Malibu Stacy, but it's got a new hat from Simpsons days. That's what it feels like.
And then another big function on it is that it does have an onboard microphone. And they said that essentially, I don't know if they said it in the original release, but more or less they said this is for just chatting with your friends. If you're in the middle of a game, they do suggest that you use an actual headphone, because obviously a little bit of what the game is playing will feed through to the controller. You get a little bit of that feedback. So
it's like impossible to just completely like eliminate, the background noise, like the echo stuff on Skype, and still you still hear it.
But so it is pretty cool.
Do you think that the controller is kind of an indication of the look and feel of the actual PlayStation, since we haven't really seen it? It's, I'm assuming that the controller's got this kind of white and black, color scheme.
I would guess that is true. I hope that it isn't, though. I like black consoles personally. That's just kind of, I guess, my preference. And PlayStation has been black since the PlayStation 2, except for obviously they have models that are special editions that are different colors. But I like the cleanness of a black console. I have a white entertainment center, so a black console just looks good on there. I don't think a white console looks as good. I'm looking at you, Mr. Wii and Wii U, that are sitting on my console that give me heartburn every time I look at you. I'm just kidding. But no, I think it has to. I can't imagine that they're not keeping this color scheme throughout. And I think it looks pretty cool. I think the design of it is pretty cool. I got scared when I just saw the front of it, because I thought that the buttons were like seamless. Like, I didn't think they were actual buttons, which terrified me.
It does look like that from the front angle, where it looks like they're just like a part of the like flat.
Exactly, but they're actually clear buttons if you look at the side view.
Yeah,
but I think it'll be pretty cool. They say that they've tested it with many people with many different shapes of hands. The one thing that confuses me.
Funny to me. Yeah,
is recently they released for PlayStation 4, they released something you can plug into the bottom of your controller, and it essentially adds flipper triggers, so an extra button that you can program. And this controller does not have that. So I thought that was like going to be required to use your controller with a PlayStation 5, but clearly that's not the case.
No, yeah.
So that's just another thought about that, but there's only so long that I can talk about a controller, Chris.
No, I know. Well, and there's this whole thing with, there's some other stuff that's happened when it comes to, Sony stuff, but it's kind of, it's right now, it's kind of every day there's something that's being, that comes out as like, oh, well, because we're all stuck at home, we can't do this. So of course it means delays and things, especially that we were looking forward to. And James, you've got some updates on a particular game that I know you're excited for.
I know, Chris, and I know everyone who's listening who cares also knows already. So we're gonna get through this. Maybe have some speculation added onto it. But PlayStation Twitter account tweeted, SIE has made the difficult decision to delay the launch of Last of Us Part 2 and Marvel's Iron Man VR until further notice. Logistically, the global crisis is preventing us from providing the, quote, launch experience that players deserve. The launch experience isn't a quote in their tweet, but that's just like, that's the key phrase I feel like that is in there. And then soon after that, Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog Studio, who are the developers of Last of Us Part 2, also released a statement that says, I'll just run through it real quick. It says, as you've likely seen, the release of Last of Us Part 2 has been delayed. We're sure the news is just as disappointing to you as it is to us. We wanted to reach out to you in the community to give you a little more information. The good news is we're nearly done with development of The Last of Us Part 2. We are in the midst of fixing our final bugs. However, even with us finishing the game, we're faced with the reality that due to logistics beyond our control, we couldn't launch The Last of Us Part 2 to our satisfaction. We want to make sure everyone gets to play Last of Us Part 2 around the same time, ensuring that we're doing everything possible to preserve the best experience for everyone. This meant delaying the game until such time where we can solve the logistics issues. We're bummed about the decision, but ultimately understood it's what's best and fair for our players. We're hoping that this won't be a long delay, and we'll update you as soon as we have information to share. We wish you all, your families and friends, the best of health. Thank you for being amazing fans and your continued support. Stayed safe. Yeah. Which essentially,
read into that for me. Like, what are you seeing kind of in that? Because you really keyed in on the launch experience part.
Yeah. So in my opinion, 1,000%. When I first read this, 1,000% was they can't get discs made, boxed, shipped. Like, that's what the issue is. And so many people have pre-ordered this game at Best Buy, at GameStop, at wherever your retailer is, Amazon, have pre-ordered a physical copy of this game and won't be able to get the game. Right. But the thing that kind of threw me off is Sony then released another statement that said, we are automatically refunding everyone who pre-ordered The Last of Us Part 2 on PlayStation 4. Not, you can, if you want to, revoke your pre-order or we'll refund your pre-order, but they're just automatically doing it across the board. Which is very strange.
Yeah.
Like, that screams to me that it's no longer coming to PlayStation 4. Which would be wild. That makes a wild move.
Well, that's the thing, because this is a lot like the movies, the stuff that's getting moved around. So much money is put into these types of titles. This isn't just like an Angry Birds, mobile game throwaway something. This is a massive video game that's going to bring in a lot of revenue for Sony. And you're seeing games, movies that were supposed to come out in a couple of weeks get moved to December, to November, to next freaking year, so that they can maximize the amount of money they make off of this. If they decide to do what Sony just did and push this to the fall, there's no reason why this can't be a launch title for PlayStation 5.
Right. What I think will happen, and I've just came up with this while we're sitting here, so let's workshop it.
All right, let's do
What
it.
I think will happen is this game will be a launch title for the PlayStation 5, will also come out for PlayStation 4 the same day. And they're refunding the PlayStation 4 pre-orders because they are assuming some of those people will own PlayStation 5s.
That makes the most sense to me.
They would pre-order it. They would then buy it on PlayStation 5 rather than PlayStation 4. So I think that's what's going on, but it's still crazy. And another layer to fold into this is they also have a PlayStation exclusive from Insomniac Studios called The Ghost of Tsushima. And that is slated for, I believe, a mid-June or maybe it's mid-July release date. And they've said nothing about it, which is very strange.
A lot of people are waiting. There's a kind of a wait and see in that little range. Like, San Diego Comic-Con hasn't made any announcements. August has Star Wars Celebration. My entire career depends upon the summer. So whether or not that happens, it kind of throws it. If you're looking for someone who's a creative, and it's the summertime, reach out.
Now Chris, they'll still need you.
Well, if things, we'll talk off air. It's good times. Oh boy, let's talk about something else. I love movies. James, you're we all love movies, but James, you're the video game guy. I like to say I'm the movie guy on the podcast. And this is, I follow a lot of this stuff, and I will say that originally when South by Southwest got canceled, I know a lot of friends who are like, oh, this is overreaction. This is crazy. I'm like, actually, no, that looks now in hindsight like probably the smartest thing they could have done, which is sad for all the people who perform. South by Southwest is mostly known as a music festival, but it starts off as a film fest. The beginning part of that of the South by Southwest festival is focused on film and interactive stuff. And the film festival was an instrumental part of my college experience, because I towards the end of college went to South by Southwest and I volunteered so that I could get the badge and stuff and go see a bunch of movies, which I did, and it really inspired me to make stuff. I ended up making a feature documentary the following summer, and it was a really cool part of the experience is going to see all these movies. And I know from being someone who has worked their butt off in years past to try to submit films into festivals, only being successful with that one documentary that I made. But there's a lot of creative people who didn't get their huge ability to show off their work at South by Southwest because it got canceled. So it's like, well, what do you do with this movie that you spent all this time and this was going to be your big premiere? Well, Amazon is partnering with South by Southwest to launch what they're calling it's a film festival collection. Basically, they reached out to all of the filmmakers who had films that were going to be premiering, shown at South by Southwest, and said, "Hey, we would love to have your film for this special event. Basically, we're going to do online. You don't have to do it. If you do this does not mean Amazon will own your film. You can still shop it out like you would normally. It's just basically we want to give you a platform to show your film to a large audience. I think this is super awesome. I right now they're still kind of getting it all together, but Amazon I'm sure will make a big deal about it and post about it and tell you all about what's going on with that. So we don't know what movies and stuff. It'll mostly be shorts, I'm assuming, and documentaries and that kind of thing. But that's something I'm pretty excited about. But what's also going on the video on demand front is a lot of movies, especially, man, I know Armando was really looking forward to Bloodshot, but it got 1 week at the theater. Then
a rousing week, if I understand correctly.
I remember, was it Vin Diesel? Vin Diesel is quoted saying something like, "It's going to make like $540 million." I think it made like three. What was it? Man, I don't even remember.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't very good. It was also not marketed very well. And I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, but I can, if I want to, I could go in my living room, which is it's insane because right now you know. Not even just now, but like a week or not even 2 weeks after the movie was in theaters, they put it available for purchase online. So you can go to your Amazon, your Vudu store, whatever, and buy Bloodshot, The Invisible Man. Trolls World Tour is not even going to theaters at all this weekend, starting tomorrow or today, depending on or yesterday, depending on when you're listening to this episode. Trolls 2 is going to be available for rent. Now, this is kind of different from what Bloodshot and Invisible Man are doing, where you can rent it or you can just flat out buy it like you'd want to. Trolls 2 isn't getting a theatrical run at all. So this is a big deal for movie theaters. This is a you know, this isn't like a Steven Soderbergh film, you know, that day and date, you know, it's like, oh, I made a big deal of this movie. It's artsy and it's going to be in the theater and it's also going to be online. This is, you know, this is like just a mainstream
bubblegum stuck to the bottom of seats movie. Like this is like kids are going to be in this, want to see this movie. This would be filling seats for sure. It's going to be on sale. It's a rental. It's an expensive rental. This is like a rental from the rental price from like the early 80s when, you know, movies were so expensive to get a hold of. Yeah. It's $19 and it's a 48-hour rental. And I think this is actually probably one of the better movies to experiment with, with this, because I was thinking, I was like, well, why doesn't Disney, why doesn't, this company do this or that, with their movie that they're moving. And, Trolls 2, the audience, like you said, is going to be primarily children. And the people who are going to buy these rentals are going to be parents for their children. This movie is going to be pirated and it's going to be online and a lot of people are going to download it and, are going to get that movie that way. But those are the people that were always going to pirate it and they were never going to spend the money to go see this movie. Right. For Trolls, this is actually a pretty interesting experiment to see, because now parents are like, oh, it's a new Troll movie. It's $19 and all four of us, or however many, in the family can watch this at once. That's a great deal. Yeah, no, it definitely is. Unfortunately, I live with myself and my girlfriend, and she doesn't like to watch movies, so it's just me. Because when this type of thing was first announced, I was very interested in seeing a movie called Hunt. That is, or The Hunt, I think it was called. Yeah. But essentially, it's like an adult version of the Hunger Games, from what I could gather from it, which seemed pretty cool. But I think it's a Blumhouse movie, but they did the rental thing and I was like, oh, I'll just rent it and give that a shot. But seeing that $20 price tag for a 48-hour rental is just tough. I mean, it is tough. If it would have been $12.99, I would have done it in a heartbeat. right? And the extra $7 really isn't that big of a deal. But for some reason, that $20, like I see a Jackson, you know, like
Sure.
$12.99, I don't see anything. Like it doesn't, it doesn't
made up money at that point.
Well,
It's not even real.
Well, it just I can't take $12.99 and associate it directly with another thing, right? There's nothing else out there that's $12.99, you know, that I buy regularly that I can compare it to, other than like 13 Whoppers or whatever, dollar burgers. But anyways, the idea of like a Jackson to rent a movie really hurts. But also, if I were to go see it in theaters, you know, Papa Bear's getting popcorn. Papa Bear's getting a soda. So it would have been like $38 to go see it in theaters. But it's just like the idea of sitting on my couch and paying $20 to see a movie is just very, very strange to me.
I agree. The Alamo Drafthouse, this is not in the notes, but this is kind of cool. So Alamo Drafthouse does a thing where it's like Weird Wednesdays, and you know, admission to those are typically free, but kind of in a way to, you know, obviously the theaters are closed, and this is kind of smart. They started rolling out their you know, special programming, and they're doing these where you buy a ticket and then you go to this website and everybody watches the movie at the same time. So it's like an on demand, but it's a live experience with all the Alamo Drafthouse, you know, pre-show and all the, you know, stuff that makes it the Drafthouse. And it's like, you know, $7 for the ticket.
Right.
And you're watching something super weird. The last one they did was some movie called like it was a Centipede something, and it was I want to say it's a Hong Kong like horror film, basically, and it's the only print it was like this movie's been like lost forever. The 35 millimeter print was found, and then the Drafthouse had it scanned into 2K resolution, and so it was kind of a, you know, special thing. So if you're like really into film and you're really into that like community aspect that's so cool about the Drafthouse, you should go to Alamo Drafthouse or drafthouse.com and check out what else they're coming up with. Some other movies, you know, have made some moves. You know, Onward, which I really enjoyed, saw that in theaters, is now already on Disney Plus.
What a sucker.
Oh my gosh. If I had only waited a couple of weeks, I've already paid for 3 years of Disney Plus. And then Artemis Fowl, which looks terrible, is not even it when they released, you know, like Mulan is moving here, and, you know, we're not going to get the Black Widow movie until the fall. Then they're like, and Artemis Fowl is going to go to Disney Plus at some point. We're not even going to tell you when yet. It's just going to show up there. So it's kind of interesting to see. This is an interesting time to kind of experiment with some of these things and see what's profitable, and what comes next for movie theaters. I don't know what's, you know, for the time being. I'm just going to stay at home, watch stuff on my TV.
Let's look around the region and take our pick of the week.
Shut up and take my money.
All right, it's time for the pick of the week. And we're here. We're in quarantine just like everybody else, but there's still plenty to discover, plenty to share. This is our stamp of approval on something to check out. And James, I'm feeling generous. I think you should go first this week.
Yeah, I will go first, Chris. And I think, you know, I have a good one for the people out there. As everyone knows, I'm a huge sports fan. I follow a site called Barstool Sports. Not everyone's cup of tea. Totally get it. But they, I think, in my opinion, have done one of the best jobs from a media perspective of transitioning to quarantine. They're based in New York, so all their employees are there. All their employees are in their apartments. The first week, all they did was all their employees' house tours, and they did like a Cribs version. It was hilarious, a lot of fun. But one specific piece, even if you don't like sports, that I think a lot of people would enjoy is the president of the company, the guy who founded it, has always done pizza reviews. Every day he releases a pizza review. And it started with him trying to do every pizza on Long Island, every pizza place. But since quarantine, he's been doing frozen pizza reviews. So it's the DiGiorno's, the whatevers, you know, all these people. And now people have been sending him pizzas. And so he's releasing a pizza review every day. It's like 5 or 6 minutes. I would strongly even encourage going back to when he first starts doing them from his apartments, because it kind of builds on itself, where one day he released his address and then just got shipped hundreds.
On purpose?
No. He opened up a box and it just so happened to have his address, and it was just sitting there, and no one, I guess, thought about it. But his address was just kind of sitting on a label open.
Oh no.
So I strongly recommend the pizza reviews, but now he's been getting so many packages that every night that he gets mail, he gets 100+ packages and does a 3-hour live stream, which I don't watch. I watch the highlight video the next day of him just opening boxes. He's gotten to where he has to wear gloves because he has so many paper cuts on his hands from opening boxes.
Oh, I was going to say, because of, safety and hygiene, you got to wear gloves.
No, he's wearing like utility gloves. It's very entertaining. The guy I find to be pretty entertaining. He is adult. He does use language that some people might not like. So if you aren't a fan of that, then I would steer away from it. But he just has an entertaining personality, and he has a vendetta against Jack's Pizza because they reached out to Jack's Pizza, which is a frozen pizza company, and asked them to send a pizza for review. And they said that they were too busy to send him one pizza. So he had a vendetta against them. But then obviously fans sent him hundreds of Jack's Pizzas. So
as soon as this is over with, I'm immediately going over and watching this. Like,
it's pretty fun.
I could have been doing this except because that's basically been my diet. I've been putting on the COVID-19. So,
but yeah, it's a daily 5-6 minute video that you can watch on YouTube. Just Google One Bite Pizza Reviews, and they have their own. It has its own channel, so you can just watch that, not have to pay attention to any sports stuff popping up in your feed.
Good. That's the way I want it. just give me the pizza. My pick is interesting because I was a big fan of season 1 of Westworld and was all about it, especially back on the old podcast, and couldn't recommend it enough. And then by the time season 2 rolled around, which, was a bit of a delay, still liked it, was still interesting. And then I kind of stopped watching it. And when season 3 got started, I was like, well, maybe I should watch the last episode of season 2 just to kind of refresh my memory. And then I went back and HBO was like, you want to watch the next one? Because you're only on episode 7. And I was like, man, I did fall off. Season 2 does end up becoming much better. And then season 3 is like a whole new thing. It's like it's not a reboot because we still are dealing with same characters and situations, but a lot has changed. It's still one of those shows you have to pay attention to, but I'm really enjoying it. It feels cinematic. It feels big. I'm not really sure where it's going, which is interesting to me. I like to kind of have that question in the back of my head about like how do all these pieces fit together? So check it out. Westworld. It's, we're I think 4 or 5 episodes in so far. And new episodes drop on HBO on Sunday nights. Well, everybody, I hope everybody stays safe. Wash your hands. Try to stay in contact with everybody, as best as you can. We're going to keep putting out some shows for you to keep you company. So why don't you let us know stuff that maybe you discovered while being stuck in your house. Maybe you have a really cool collection of movies or video games that were finding old stuff that you didn't even realize you had. James, I posted on my personal Instagram, but I should share it over on the other one. I came across my binder full of 1991 Marvel comic book cards.
Very cool.
It was such a trip, like getting to open this up and flip through and look at all the artwork. And I remember bringing this binder with me to school back in, I think it was 5th grade. Just bringing with me. And anytime I got a new deck of cards, putting those cards in the protectors and then showing my friends, trying to collect all the X-Men because it was, 1991. So you got the Marvel, the X-Men on Fox Kids, at that time. So, share with us, go over on our Instagram, go over to our Twitter, just search the Geek State podcast. You'll find us there and, stay excellent to each other, and we'll see you next time.
New for 2078. PlayStation 9's new electronic spores tap straight into your adrenal gland. PS9 has improved retinal scanning. A mind control system. Holographic movie surround vision. And telepathic personal music. The ultimate Ultimate just got better. PlayStation 9. Teleport yours today.
Nice.
Look at that. We did it.
Drama.
Really real suspenseful for the people out there, so they have to tune in.
I know. It's like, what are they going to talk about? What does it even mean?
What does
all of this mean?
What is it?
I couldn't think, now that, the XFL's done, and I couldn't help but think, man, the Renegades had it all right from the beginning with their face mask.
I see what you did there. That's a COVID-19 joke there. I was going to talk about UFC president Dana White and him still holding the UFC fight that's supposed to happen next weekend on a private island, but it turns out that that's no longer happening. So it was like he was going to be Shang Tsung on his own little Mortal Kombat.
It has begun.
Not an original James Kelly joke.